Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you're doing well. In today's video we're going to discuss about defenses and failings. So as you know, obviously cav failings is probably the worst failings you could be defending on, unless you know for certain that they send in an infantry march. So in an ideal world you don't want to be caught out sitting in cav failings, because you will lose a lot of troops, especially with the new update, because cav on range it's very deadly. What I do is basically, when I'm waiting for a rally, I will probably stay on cav failings, because when they test my failings, what I want them to think is that I'm sitting on cav, and then they will think yes, he's in a cav failings, and they will probably send a range march, which then you can switch to inf once obviously you know that's what they're going to send. But this only works if they think that you're offline and you don't change and don't heal when they test your failings. So the best thing you can do is to never go offline on a cav, because it just doesn't work. So just make sure you change your failings before you go to bed or you log off the game. Before the counter research, I would say 95% of solo traps and rally traps would sit on either inf failings or inf wedge, which is still a viable option. But what you need to make sure is obviously you have the troops to back it up. Inf is probably one of the best failings that you can defend on, because you've got 4 squads at the front. And especially if you are a solo trap, what you want to do is you want to build a troop that will take most of the damage. So you build a lot of inf to take the hit, and that's why you will defend on inf failings. My personal favorite would probably be either a range wedge or inf wedge, because you will have more troops at the front. So you've got 2 squads of range on top, and then 2 squads of infantry in the middle. So if someone's hitting you with, for example, a cav, what they're gonna do is they will immediately attack your front line, which is the 2 squads of the infantry. So once those 2 have been defeated, they will move on to the nearest squad, which in this case should be the range. So you have a more chance of surviving, because what's going to happen is obviously your range will start attacking the cav. What we're going to do is we'll just go into a simulation and then watch it and see how that goes, and I will explain you what I mean by that. So in this scenario we've got the classic inf versus cav, which, as we know, obviously cav will come on top. And what I mean by the squad, so you've got 4 squads at the front which are level or parallel to each other from your infantry, and the enemy's cav, which is the same, so that each squad is attacking each squad. So in this case, obviously an equal amount of troops, you have no chance of winning unless you have got a better gear than the person who's attacking you, especially with the new research. So you know the enemy will have an additional 45% counter. So let's have a look visually what I mean by squad. So if you have a look at this, so you've got 4 squads at the front, and the enemy has got 4 squads at the front. So those are, so in each squad it contains an equal amount of troops, and then you will have another 4 squads on the side. So this is the normal failings and not the wedges, and then you will have your range squads at the back. So this is what I mean by squads when I say squad, so hopefully it doesn't confuse you too much. Makes sense. So does that make sense? I hope it does. Now let's take a look at the wedges, which is probably the best option available at the moment to defend rallies, whether you are, especially if you are a rally trap. For solos, I will still stick with phalanx, probably just on inf, unless you know what the enemy is sending. So wedges are better when defending rallies, especially now with the counter research, because you will have more squads at the front that will attack the enemy's squad, which means instead of just having an infantry front line or a range front line, you will have two different type of troops. So for example, on inf wedge, you will have your 4 squads of infantry back to back with range squads on the sides. So when you get attacked by either, let's say, an inf phalanx, what's gonna happen is the enemy's inf will target your 2 squads at the front, which is the nearest to the enemy's troops, and that's how it works, because the invading troop will attack the troops that's closest to them, which in this case is the infantry, and then once those squads have been defeated, they will move on to the next available squads that's near to them, which would in that case would have been the range, but because the cavs come to the front, they will have to readjust and move on to cav, which gives you a millimeter of a second or few steps for the infantry to move on to the cav, which then you will do an additional damage while the enemy is not attacking your troop. So it gives you the upper hand, and that's why it's better to defend on wedges, because every second that you can gain of you attacking the enemy's troops without you getting attacked gives you obviously more damage to the enemy, which then preserves your HP, and that's what can turn the fight around. I hope that makes sense. I know it's slightly confusing to understand, but once you play around with it, you will understand. So what I'm going to do is I will slow down this clip, and then you can have a look what I mean by that. Defending in wedges is better. So if you look at this fight, before the enemy even can attack your troops, your range has already taken out a few troops, which gives you a valuable time, because you actually doing damage while the enemy is not doing anything. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So, and that's the reason why it's best to defend on wedges instead of normal phalanx if you're a rally trap, or if you take in rallies. You don't have to be a rally trap, but if you're a solo and you're getting hit with solos, then it's better to stick to an infantry phalanx, as I said, unless you know what the enemy is sending. So I hope this video is somehow educational and you get the most out of it, and hopefully on your next venture you will be able to defend a lot more rallies and you have a bit more knowledge on how phalanx work. And on a final note, I'm working on my new tree, which is a game changer, to be honest. So if you have few tomes saved up, I would strongly advise that you start working on this. Not only does it give you fury offense and HP, which increases your attack and your HP when you're in fury, but also if you counter the enemy, it will give you an additional damage. So in my case, I'm currently focusing on range and inf, because as I said, that's what I am going to defend with. And on a final note, just to add, make sure you always have more troops on your front line, which will take the most damage. So for my case, it's inf and range. Thank you so much for the support. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and you are keeping safe in this current climate. Take care everyone, and I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.